To build a generative AI model that can write code, paint landscapes, or translate languages, you have to feed it. These engines don't invent knowledge, they consume it, extracting patterns from billions of pieces of digital content. To harvest data on that scale, tech companies use a mechanical process called text and data mining, or TDM. Think of it as an automated vacuum cleaner that scrapes the internet, pulling in everything it touches to train the neural network. But there is a legal reality attached to that data. As the European AI Act notes in Recital 105, almost everything caught in that vacuum, articles, photographs, code repositories, is protected by copyright and related rights. The paragraphs or portraits an AI generates are the result of this process. They are the product of billions of human-made, legally protected works. Europe actually established a legal anchor for these creators years before the current generative boom.
The 2019 Copyright Directive laid down the ground rules for how text and data mining interacts with European intellectual property. The directive created two distinct tracks. If you are mining data purely for scientific research, creators generally cannot block you. But if you are scraping data for general commercial AI use, the rules change entirely. Under Article 4 of the directive, right holders can explicitly reserve their rights. Through a machine-readable tag or a formal declaration, a creator can legally opt out and say no to commercial data scraping. Stating your refusal is one thing, enforcing it is another. An independent artist or a local publisher has almost no physical way to block an automated billion-dollar scraping algorithm from quietly ingesting their portfolio in a fraction of a second. Creators have held the legal right to refuse scraping since 2019. What they lacked was a mechanical way to force machines to actually listen to that refusal. The AI Act addresses this gap by shifting the burden from the offer to the developer. It doesn't rewrite copyright law. Instead, it requires the makers of general-purpose AI models to build systems that respect laws already on the books. Under Article 53, developers must establish a rigorous copyright policy. They must actively identify and honor those Article 4 opt-outs, using technology to recognize when a creator reserves their rights. And geography offers no loophole. The regulation applies wherever the model is trained. A company might scrape its data and train its model on servers in a country with completely different copyright standards. But the moment they place that AI system on the European market, they have to prove they respected European opt-out rules during training. Tech giants can no longer bypass human creator rights by using offshore jurisdictions. Access to the European market requires proving the machine learned to take no for an answer. Knowing a company has a compliance policy is helpful, but creators also need to verify what the model actually consumed. The AI Act addresses this by requiring developers to reveal the contents of their training sets. Providers must publish a sufficiently detailed, content-complete summary of the exact data they used to train the model. Instead of an unreadable code dump, companies follow a standardized AI Office template. It lists the datasets, collections, and archives the AI was fed. This transparency mandate gives creators the visibility they need to check if their specific works were swept up by the machine, making it possible to act if their opt-out was ignored. By combining a mandatory copyright policy with a public summary of training data, the AI Act takes a creator's theoretical right to refuse and transforms it into a right they can actually exercise. However, the regulation places strict boundaries on its own power. The European AI Office exists to ensure that companies publish their transparency summaries and have policies in place. They do not act as copyright judges, examining training data work by work to settle infringement disputes. The law also exercises proportionality. To avoid stifling competition, it exempts non-professional uses and offers simplified compliance methods for startups and small enterprises. The AI Act closes the loop without creating an overreaching bureaucracy. It simply bridges the gap so the opt-out right granted to authors is finally respected by the machines that consume their work.